Okay, back to the fly.
So we have our fly, so we've just sewn this seam here, we've sewn the crutch together, now we need to start sewing the zip in place. So this is our fly extension, which is this piece here, and you can see the zip, you can just see a little bit of the zip here, but that's because it's been sewn on to the layers. But to get, so that it's easier to sew this to zip in place, we first of all just sew the zip onto the fly extension itself, okay? So on the machine, because this is really just a stay stitch, it's to hold it in place, we're just going to match the end of the zip tape up with the raw edge there and the edge of the zipper tape along this edge here, and we're just going to basically just tack it in place. So we're just holding it in place, and we're going to stitch it again only as far as the notch, which is 2 centimeters above the bottom there. So just there, and so we're just holding it in place. Okay, now we're going to sew this. So we've got our front of our short here, fly facing extension. So now obviously this has to go and be sewn there so that it looks like the short. Okay, so because we want to get close to the zip teeth, we can't do that with a regular foot, so we just have to change the foot. Okay, so we're going to change the foot. So just hold your finger, lift your knee pad up so that the arm goes up, and don't unscrew it very much. We don't want to pull the screw all the way out. We just want it to come out enough so that we can stick the foot under there. And there, you have 2 zipper feet, so we want the one that sits on the right hand side of the needle. Some people call this the left zipper foot because the needle's on the left, but I call it the right zipper foot because the foot is actually on the right side. And so make sure that it goes up as high as it can into the little fitting there, and then just tighten it back up again. Okay, so we have our zipper foot in place.
Yep.
Okay, so now because we've got the foot on the right hand side, we actually have to, this is our piece, we've put it against the front, we're going to flip over to the inside, so you've actually got the garment itself facing up and the fly extension and the zip underneath.
Can
there.
you show us again? Yep.
Okay, so you've got the fly facing, zip's already stitched in place. We're going to match the top edge of the waist and the overlocked edge there up together. And now if you run your finger along, you can actually see, see there's like it makes a little shadow where the zip is. So we're going to start at that point, and you can actually get quite close to the zip. And so we're going to sew it down. Sew this all the way down, and you've got all of this other stuff happening here, but just sort of fold it back out of the way. There we go. So folding this excess down out of the way. And now the thing here, even though like our crutch seam is stitched up to there, which is 1.5 from the edge, we actually want our zip to be stitched half a centimetre back from that. So 5 mil, so you still have the 1 centimetre seam allowance. So when you get down here, when you get to that stitch point, then just do a back tack. And now I'll turn it over, and you'll see why you've actually got that step there. Okay, so I flip it over, and then the zip's only attached on one side so far, but you can see if I do it this way, fold the pieces back, and then you can see there's this that's the 5 millimeter step there. And so the reason we've done that is that when the zip is done up, and I know that it's not attached to the other side yet, but if I do the zip up and fold it back, it means that when the zip is finished and we've done all the sewing on it, you don't actually see the zipper tape, because sometimes you can stitch it like that. This time it's actually, this edge goes 5 mil past there, so there's no way that you can actually see the zip tape.
It's a nice neat fly.
Yeah. Okay, so now we obviously haven't stitched this edge on, so this might be a little bit tricky, but just So actually you can give this edge a nice press if you want to as well, so that keeps it nice and flat. And what you'll find is if you match up this edge here, this folded edge of the fly extension, with the edge of the overlocked fly facing, if you do that there and then you pull the fly facing back, you'll see that the tape here sits like 2 centimeters from the edge, and you can see if I fold this back that you've got your 5mm extension there. So what we need to do now, and if you need to, you can pop some pins in there. Let's get some pins. So pin this in place, but the thing is, because we only need to attach it to the fly facing, don't pin it all the way through, only pin it through the facing. Okay, so once you get started you'll be fine. So maybe just stick in 2 pins there, and then now we can flip it all back, so we've got both the fronts going off to the side, and we're literally just stitching the zipper tape onto the fly extension itself. That's all we're stitching it on. So at the top, because we've got the fly pull as well, sorry, the zipper pull, it tends to push this off to the side a little bit. So when at the top, you can actually have this veering off a little bit. So if we start here, you're actually very close to the edge there, and then by the time you get down here, it'll actually, it'll straighten up, so it'll be closer to the edge. Okay, so I take that pin out, and if you just stitch it with the edge of your zipper foot on the edge of the tape, stitch that all the way down. Keep it nice and even, so you've got an even distance down here, and we're just going to stitch it again down to that notch, so where the fly extension sewing stops. Okay, so we've stitched that there. So when you flip it back, now you can see the zip is actually attached to the fly facing.
Great.
Okay. Okay, so we have our fly. We've attached the zip to the fly facing. Now if we flip it to the inside, what we need to do now is we actually need to secure, because this is just flapping around at the moment, the fly facing, so we need to stitch the fly facing onto the outer garment. And this is much easier to do on the inside of the garment. And we can get this out of the way, so that's the fly extension. Because we stopped sewing here, we can lift that out of the way. And if you just lift the zip up just at the moment, you'll see that there's a little fold in here where it's turned back on itself. So if you want to get this to sit flat, you can actually snip in there, and that will help that bit sit flat. And because we're going to stitch down here, you can also then see where you're stitching to, where you finish sewing. Okay, so we still have our zipper foot on, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to run the needle just along the edge of the overlocking here. And you can just follow that around. And try not to make it too jumpy. Lift the foot if you need to turn the corner, but it's supposed to be a nice curve. Okay, so we don't want it angled around the corner. Okay, so then when we flip it over, you can see the row of stitching, top stitching there. And so now we just need to finish off the bottom edge. Now because my zip, and yours will be too, probably longer than the actual fly, what we want to do is we want to cut this back shorter so that so it finishes, so it's like 0.5 at least shorter than the fly extension. Okay, so hoping this is going to work with my snips. And there we go, that worked. Good. All right, now because we don't want this raw edge here, especially because this can lift up at the moment, so what we're going to do is just flip this over, and we're going to stitch the end of the zip onto the fly extension. and you can sew through the zip. You can't do this with a metal zip, of course. With a metal zip, it's important that you get a zip that's the right length, but with these nylon ones, you can sew through that. And nearly done, so that's just given us this little row of stitching here. So all we have to do now is, because this bottom still flaps around a little bit, we just want to secure it, and what we're going to do is secure it onto the fly facing here. Okay, so it's there. You can see there's a little flap there. Pull this down, make sure it's sitting nice and flat, lift it up, flip it over, and then we're going to, and because we've still got the zipper foot on here, we can get quite close to the edge here, and it's just a little diagonal stitch, maybe like 1.5 centimeters long, and that's holding that back there now.
Great.
So it can't flip all the way up. Okay, and there we have our zip done.